I think I didn't do anything wrong. I just laughed along with my friends when my ex teased my husband at the party. Now, sitting at my kitchen table with legal documents in front of me, I wonder how things turned so serious over one small night. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The Willow Bar and Grill buzzed with conversation and clinking glasses as I surveyed my birthday celebration. At 32, I felt like I was finally hitting my stride. Good job as an office administrator, beautiful children, and a social circle that actually appreciated my sense of humor. Unlike some people. Eliot sat quietly at the end of our table, nursing his beer while my friends laughed and caught up. My mother Ruth was in full form, regaling everyone with stories from her book club, while Dane, my ex from college, had everyone cracking up with his sales pitch impressions. Remember when Isola used to be fun? Dane grinned, raising his glass toward me. Before she got all domestic and responsible, I laughed, feeling that familiar flutter of attention. I'm still fun. Just ask anyone here. Well, Dane's eyes twinkled mischievously as he glanced toward Eliot. I don't know if everyone would agree. Some people think fun is organizing spreadsheets on a Friday night. The table erupted in laughter. Ruth nearly choked on her wine. Oh, honey, you're terrible, she gasped, but she was grinning. I caught Eliot's expression, that tight-lipped look he got when he felt attacked. But honestly, it was just harmless teasing. Why did he always have to take everything so seriously? Come on, Eliot's not that bad, I said, though I was still smiling. He's just thorough. Very, very thorough. More laughter rippled around the table. Dane leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying himself. Thorough, right. Is that what we're calling it when someone alphabetizes their sock drawer? He doesn't alphabetize his socks, I protested, giggling despite myself. He organizes them by color and thickness. Even I had to admit it sounded ridiculous when I said it out loud. The whole table was in stitches now, and I felt that warm glow of being the center of attention, of having people hang on my every word. Eliot stood up abruptly. Excuse me, he said quietly. I need some air. Claire, Eliot's sister, who'd been mostly quiet all evening, watched him go with concern. She gave me a look I couldn't quite read. Disappointment, maybe. But I brushed it off. Claire had always been protective of her little brother. He'll be fine, I told the table, waving dismissively. He just needs to lighten up a little. The party continued, but as the minutes ticked by, I realized Eliot hadn't come back. His phone sat abandoned on the table, buzzing occasionally with notifications. When I finally went looking for him an hour later, the hostess told me she'd seen him leave through the front door. He'd walked out, at my birthday party. How dramatic could you get? I didn't get home until nearly midnight, riding high on wine and validation from my friends. The house was dark, except for a single light in the kitchen. Eliot's car was in the driveway, so at least he hadn't done anything truly stupid. I found him at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, still in his party clothes but looking oddly deflated. There you are, I said, kicking off my heels. You missed the cake. Ruth saved you a piece, but honestly, Eliot, walking out like that was pretty childish. He looked up at me with tired eyes. Childish? Yes, childish. It was just some harmless teasing. Friends joke around. That's what they do. You can't expect everyone to walk on eggshells just because you're sensitive. Sensitive. He repeated the word like he was testing how it tasted. I sat down across from him, trying to inject some patience into my voice. Look, I get it. Dane can be a lot sometimes, but he doesn't mean anything by it. And my friends were just having fun. You're taking this way too personally. Eliot was quiet for a long moment, turning his mug in slow circles. Are you happy with me, Isola? The question caught me off guard. What kind of question is that? A simple one. I felt my phone buzz with a text and glanced at it instinctively. Dane. Hope the birthday girl had fun. Your husband seemed thrilled. I quickly flipped the phone face down. You're being paranoid, Eliot. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're looking for problems where there aren't any. Am I? Yes. God, you're exhausting sometimes. Do you know that? I throw one party, and you turn it into some kind of relationship crisis. Maybe if you tried to connect with people instead of sitting there like a bump on a log, you'd understand how normal social interaction works. He stared at me for another long moment, then stood up and rinsed his mug in the sink. I'm going to bed. After he left, I texted Dane back. It was perfect. Don't mind the mood. Some people just can't handle a good time. From upstairs, I heard Eliot moving around in his office, opening and closing drawers, probably organizing something else. I rolled my eyes and poured myself a glass of water, my head already starting to pound. 7-year-old Mia appeared at the bottom of the stairs, in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Mummy, is Daddy mad? No, sweetheart, Daddy's just tired. Go back to bed. But as I tucked her in, I found myself wondering what exactly Eliot was doing in his office at this hour, and why the sound of opening drawers made me feel oddly uneasy. The next few days passed in a cold war of polite interactions and careful distances. Eliot left for work early and came home late, speaking to me only about logistics, who was picking up the kids, what we needed from the grocery store, when the next parent-teacher conference was scheduled. At my office, I found myself texting Dane more frequently. He was easy to talk to, sympathetic about my situation at home. Sounds like you're dealing with a lot, he'd write. You deserve someone who appreciates your spirit. It felt good to be understood. When the tension at home became too much, I escaped to my mother's house. Ruth was always good for perspective. Honestly, darling, she said, pouring us both generous glasses of wine, I don't know what's gotten into Eliot lately. He's always been a bit serious, but this sulking is ridiculous. Right. It's like he wants me to apologize for having friends. Men can be so fragile, Ruth continued, settling into her favorite armchair. Your father was the same way. Couldn't handle it when I had my own social life. They want you to revolve around them completely. I felt validated, understood. This wasn't about me being unreasonable. This was about Eliot being controlling. But when I got home that evening, Claire was in my living room, playing blocks with Oliver, while Mia did homework at the coffee table. Eliot was in the kitchen, cooking dinner. Claire, I said, forcing a smile, this is unexpected. I was in the neighborhood, she replied, but her tone was cooler than usual. Thought I'd check on everyone. Over dinner, Claire made small talk with the kids, while Eliot and I maintained our polite charade. But I could feel her watching me, evaluating. After the kids went to bed, she cornered me in the kitchen, while Eliot was upstairs helping with bath time. What's going on, Isola? What do you mean? I mean, my brother looks like he hasn't slept in days, and you're acting like everything's fine. What happened after the party? I bristled. Nothing happened. Eliot's just being dramatic about some harmless teasing. Honestly, Claire, I'm surprised you're taking his side without even hearing the whole story. I'm not taking sides. I'm concerned about my family. Your family. I'm his wife. I think I know what's best for my own marriage. Claire studied me for a moment. Do you? That night, Eliot asked to see my phone. Just like that, out of nowhere, while we were getting ready for bed. Excuse me? Your phone. Can I see it? Why would you want to see my phone? That's a trust issue, Eliot. Married couples don't spy on each other. So you won't show me. It's not about showing you or not showing you. It's about the principle. You're asking me to prove my innocence, which implies you think I'm guilty of something. He nodded slowly, like I'd just confirmed something for him. Then he went into his office and closed the door. I heard him moving around in there for a while, and I wondered what he was doing, but I pushed the thought away. I had nothing to hide. Well, nothing important anyway. Mia's school play was supposed to be a nice, normal family event. She was playing a tree in the environmental awareness production, and she'd been practicing her lines for weeks. I was looking forward to it, a chance to show that despite whatever weirdness was happening at home, we were still a solid family unit. I should have known Dane would show up. He'd mentioned that his niece was in the same class, but I'd forgotten until I saw him in the school auditorium, waving me over to the seats he'd saved. "Isola, over here!" He'd somehow managed to secure an entire row, and my mother was already there, along with a few other friends from the birthday party. Eliot arrived just as the lights were dimming, looking around the packed auditorium with confusion. I waved him over, but the only seat left was at the far end of the row, separated from me by Dane and my mother. "Sorry," I whispered as he squeezed past everyone. Dane saved seats, but it got crowded. The play was adorable. Mia delivered her lines about the importance of trees with serious 7-year-old intensity, and I felt that familiar surge of maternal pride. I took dozens of photos, making sure to capture every moment. During intermission, our little group clustered together, laughing and chatting. Dane was in full charm mode, entertaining everyone with stories from his latest sales conference. I found myself gravitating toward the center of the group, basking in the attention and laughter. "Isola, you have to get a picture of this crew," my mother insisted, pulling out her phone. "This is such a fun group." We arranged ourselves for photos, and somehow I ended up between Dane and my mother, with our friends clustered around us. It wasn't until later, when I was posting the pictures to social media, that I realized Eliot wasn't in any of them. He'd been standing slightly apart, holding Oliver, just outside the frame. I cropped the photos a bit more, adjusting the lighting and adding a caption. "So grateful for my amazing support system. Blessed Sakchak family, Dersha, friends like family." The likes and comments started rolling in immediately. "You look so happy. What a great group. Love seeing you surrounded by people who appreciate you." When we got home, Eliot was quiet. More quiet than usual, if that was possible. "Great play," I said, trying to inject some normalcy into the evening. "Mia was perfect." "She was. Did you get some good pictures?" He looked at me strangely. "A few." Later, after the kids were in bed, he approached me in the living room where I was scrolling through the social media responses to my photos. "Isola, we need to talk." "About what?" "About what's happening here. With us." I sighed, not looking up from my phone. "Eliot, if this is about the seating at the play, I'm sorry. Dane was just trying to be helpful by saving seats. I didn't know it would be awkward." "It's not about the seating." "Then what?" "It's about the pattern. The party, the photos, the way we don't seem to be on the same team anymore." I finally looked up at him. "We are on the same team. You're just not participating. There's a difference." "Am I not participating, or am I being pushed out?" "That's ridiculous. You push yourself out by being antisocial and negative." He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay." "Okay what?" "Just, okay." The next morning I woke up alone. Eliot's side of the bed was made, and his overnight bag was gone from the closet. On the kitchen table, I found a handwritten note. "Isola, I think we both need some space to figure out what we want. I'm staying at Claire's for a while. We need to have a serious talk about our marriage, but not while we're both angry. The kids can reach me any time. Eliot." I stared at the note, reading it twice. He'd actually left. Over what? Some imagined slight, some paranoid fantasy about me not being supportive enough. I called him immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. Then I called Claire. "He's being ridiculous," I told her, running away instead of talking things through like an adult. "Maybe he tried talking and felt like you weren't listening," Claire replied, and her tone was cooler than I'd ever heard it. "Whose side are you on here, Claire?" "I'm on the side of my brother not looking like a broken man." The line went dead. For 3 days, I waited for Eliot to come to his senses and come home. I kept expecting him to call, to apologize for overreacting, to realize how silly this whole thing was. Instead, I got a call from Mia's teacher, asking if everything was okay at home because Mia seemed upset and had asked if Daddy was coming back. That's when I realized Eliot was actually serious about this separation nonsense. Fine. If he wanted to be dramatic, I could play that game too. I started reaching out to our mutual friends, explaining the situation from my perspective. He just walked out, I told them. Over nothing. I'm trying to hold everything together for the kids, but honestly, I don't know what's gotten into him. Most of them were sympathetic. Who leaves their family over a few jokes at a party? Who abandons their children because their wife has friends? But some of the responses surprised me. A few people seemed less shocked than I expected. One friend even said, "I wondered how long you two would last," which was odd. I convinced Mia and Oliver to call their father, coaching them on what to say. "Tell Daddy you miss him and want him to come home," I suggested. "Tell him the house feels sad without him." But when Oliver came back from his call, he said, "Daddy says he misses us too, but he's not sad. He says he's figuring things out." What was there to figure out? We were married. We had children. You don't just walk away from your responsibilities because your feelings got hurt. Then, on a Thursday afternoon at work, a woman I didn't recognize approached my desk with an envelope. "Isola Marwood?" "Yes?" "You've been served." My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Divorce papers, custody petition, asset protection requests, pages and pages of legal language that all boiled down to one thing. Eliot was actually trying to end our marriage. I called him immediately, not caring that my coworkers could hear. "Are you insane?" I hissed into the phone. "Divorce papers, really?" "We need to talk," he said calmly, but not over the phone. "No, we'll talk now. You don't get to blow up our family and then dictate terms." "Isola, I have documentation." "Documentation of what?" "Me having friends. Me living my life." There was a pause. "Among other things." That evening, Claire called me. "You need to get a lawyer," she said without preamble. "I need to get my husband back." "That's not going to happen." "How can you say that? We have children together. We have a life together." "You had a life together, past tense." "What has he told you?" "He doesn't need to tell me anything, Isola. I have eyes." I hung up on her and immediately called my mother. "This is all Claire's doing," I told Ruth. "She's poisoning him against me." "Well, we'll just have to fight back, won't we?" my mother replied. "Get yourself a good lawyer, honey. If Eliot wants to play hardball, we'll show him what hardball looks like." But as I sat in my empty house that night, scrolling through my phone for lawyer recommendations, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something important. What documentation could Eliot possibly have? And why did everyone seem less surprised by this development than I was? The mediation session was held in a sterile conference room that smelled like industrial carpet and broken dreams. Eliot sat across from me with his lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman who'd arranged neat stacks of folders in front of her, like ammunition. I'd brought my own attorney, of course, but as the session progressed, I realized I might have underestimated the situation. "Your Honor," Eliot's lawyer began, addressing the mediator, "my client has documented evidence of Mrs. Marwood's pattern of emotional manipulation, public humiliation, and extramarital involvement." "That's ridiculous," I interrupted, but my lawyer put a warning hand on my arm. The evidence was extensive. Screenshots of my group chat messages from the night of the party, where I'd called Eliot hopeless and socially dead weight. Bank statements showing charges for meals and gifts that I couldn't account for. Office keycard logs that contradicted my claims about working late. Even photos from my own social media, showing how consistently I'd excluded Eliot from what I'd called family events. "Mrs. Marwood," the mediator said, "can you explain these discrepancies in your work schedule?" I felt heat rising in my cheeks. "I sometimes run errands during lunch, or meet friends after work. That's not illegal." And the text messages to Mr. Keller? My stomach dropped. How did they have those? Dane is an old friend. We text sometimes. That doesn't mean anything. Eliot's lawyer slid another folder across the table. These messages span several months and include discussions of meeting privately, complaints about your husband, and what appears to be emotional intimacy that extends beyond friendship. I looked at Eliot, really looked at him, for the first time in months. He wasn't the defeated, passive man I'd grown used to dismissing. He was calm, prepared, and utterly done with me. Eliot, I said, trying to inject some warmth into my voice, this is crazy. We can work this out. We don't need lawyers and mediators. We just need to talk. He met my eyes steadily. We tried talking, Isola. You told me I was paranoid, oversensitive, and imagining things. Turns out I wasn't imagining anything. The mediator reviewed the evidence for what felt like hours. Financial records, witness statements, even a written account from Claire detailing the changes she'd observed in our family dynamic. Based on the documentation provided, the mediator finally said, I'm recommending joint custody with a structured schedule and an equitable division of assets with provisions for Mr. Marwood's financial protection. This is insane, I said, my voice rising despite my lawyer's warning looks. You're destroying a family over nothing, over jokes and text messages and normal social interaction. Mrs. Marwood, the mediator replied patiently, the evidence suggests a pattern of behavior that created an untenable living situation for your husband and a confusing, unstable environment for your children. As we signed the papers, I kept waiting for Eliot to change his mind, to realize what he was throwing away, but he signed each document with steady hands, as methodical and thorough as ever. Walking out of that office, I finally understood that my power over him, the power to dismiss, to gaslight, to make him question his own reality, was completely gone. He'd found his voice, his backbone, and his exit strategy, and I was left holding legal documents that proved, in black and white, that sometimes the quiet ones are just gathering evidence. My mother was furious, of course. He's trying to ruin you, she insisted. But Claire's words echoed in my head. I'm on the side of my brother not looking like a broken man. Maybe that was the real problem. I'd gotten so comfortable with him being broken that I'd forgotten he might eventually heal. Sitting in my kitchen now, reading through the custody schedule and asset division, I can't help but wonder, when did protecting my right to have fun become more important than protecting the person who loved me? And why did it take a room full of lawyers for me to realize that Eliot hadn't been the problem at all? The house feels different now, quieter, but not in a peaceful way, more like the quiet after something important has ended. I think I didn't do anything wrong, just lived my life the way I wanted to. But the legal documents spread across my kitchen table tell a different story, one where actions have consequences, and sometimes the person you've been taking for granted has been keeping very careful notes. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.